After using the Fold 4 for a full year, here I am comparing it with the brand new Fold 5. I found out that other than just the chipset and the hinge change, there are a lot more things that are different between these two phones. I'll list all of them out here today, and you can skip to whichever part that interests you the most, so I will just have them timestamped down below, so let's begin. Starting with the most obvious change, the hinge. We all know that it closes with zero gaps right now, like what we said in our full review of the Galaxy Z Fold 5, but it's technically not 100% zero gap. It technically still does have a small gap to prevent dust and lint from getting squished in between the two screens when it is folded to avoid potentially damaging the screen. However, it still prevents dust from gathering inside the screen while taking out of my pocket. I don't have to wipe the screen every time that I unfold it, and that is just great in comparison with the Fold 4. I mean, just look at the situation here. I just put it in my pocket for like 5 minutes and this happened. Now, because the gap is smaller, the thickness around the hinge area is also a lot thinner than before. This means that left-handed users like me will have a great time using this brand new Galaxy Z Fold 5. As for the chipset though, I'm not gonna talk much about it here. The performance increase from the 8 Plus Gen 1 to the 8 Gen 2 is actually quite astronomical. I'll refer you to watch our gaming test video of the Galaxy Z Fold 5 instead, where we detail the performance and thermals of this phone. And of course, day-to-day usage experience is also much better on the Galaxy Z Fold 5. Opening the camera is a lot faster and it's just snappier overall. These are the things that we obviously expect from a brand new phone. Overall, I'll just have to say that I'm actually very impressed with its performance. A change in the chipset also affects the battery life despite having the same battery capacity as before. We now have a rather significant improvement in terms of its battery life while using it in folded or unfolded mode, and we have already detailed all of these in our full review of the Galaxy Fold 5, so I'll just quickly summarize it for you here. Unfolded display improves about 8 point something%, while the folded mode it improves somewhere around 20 something%. I can't remember the full numbers, but everything is on the screen here for you to see. The maximum wattage that it can take in while charging is the same, though the charging time is surprisingly shorter on the Galaxy Z Fold 5. It took slightly less than an hour to charge from 15% to completion, and it is just faster than the Galaxy Z Fold 4. Maybe Samsung managed to control the battery temperature better thanks to the larger vapor chamber, so it can consistently take in higher wattage, which might be the case actually, because this phone does have a larger vapor chamber after all. Now, I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the full review of the Galaxy Z Fold 5, so I'll just mention it again. These two phones do have the pause USB power delivery option when you perform the ritual, which is the battery bypass feature that is kind of hidden inside Samsung's game launcher menu, so I'll just link it at the top right corner there so you can perform the ritual yourself. Samsung is also using the image signal processor inside the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset, and that also affects the overall picture quality of the Fold 5. When we took our day shots, it looks very similar between these two phones. The level of detail and clarity looks pretty much the same to me, but the colors and dynamic range is gonna be different. The Fold 4 seems to have a slightly higher exposure for whatever reason, and the biggest upgrade though is when we take night shots. The upgraded Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 will require less time to take these kind of scenes in the night using night mode, of course. The Fold 4 requires 7 seconds, whereby the Fold 5 requires only 5 seconds. And this 2-second gap is pretty much consistent throughout all of the night shots that we have taken. Not only does the Fold 5 require less time, it even takes better night shots too. It's clearer, properly lit, and it just plain looks better in my opinion. This also means that night videos taken from the Fold 5 will also look better as well. The stabilization on both of these phones are identical in my opinion, but you can obviously see that the Fold 5 is less noisy than the Fold 4, and I just think that the Fold 5 doesn't artificially make the night shots look brighter, and that is why I just think that the Fold 5 looks better than the Fold 4 when it comes to the cameras. The software between these two phones though, well, it pretty much just got a very slight upgrade on the Fold 5. The taskbar can now have up to 4 recent apps if you want to. You can still select 2 apps if you don't want that clutter in your taskbar. We can also have 5 floating apps and then stack them into one floating button. And then we also have the multi-connect feature with the Galaxy Tab S9 Ultra, all of those good stuff. I wouldn't consider these to be actually differences because these features might be exclusive for the Fold 5 right now, but I do believe in the near future, maybe in about a month or two like that, the Fold 4 will have all of these features as well via a software update. The screen on the Fold 5 for both the inner and the outer display is gonna be much brighter than the Fold 4's. But yeah, in terms of color accuracy and whatnot, they're pretty much the same overall. So I would say it's a minor upgrade, but a significant one nonetheless. There are a few more things that I realized that were different between the Fold 4 and the Fold 5 too. The power button on the Fold 5 is a lot stiffer and clickier than before. You can probably hear the differences here actually. And I can say that this is not due to wear and tear because I rarely change the volume on my Fold 4 anyway. The vibration motor seems to be different on the Fold 5 as well, since it feels a lot tighter than the Fold 4's. I really don't know how to convey this in video, so I recommend you to try out those demo units in the Samsung store. What I can show you though is the speaker difference. It does sound a bit deeper in bass overall for the Fold 5, and yeah, I'll just show you a comparison here. And yeah, that's pretty much all of the differences that I can find between the Fold 4 and the Fold 5. I do agree that these upgrades seem minor, but they are still rather significant in my opinion. Is it worth upgrading from the Fold 4 to the Fold 5 though? That is up to you. We are just merely presenting you with all of the differences that I can find so you can make an informed decision before proceeding with your financial decision. I do think that it's a good upgrade from the Fold 3 and older though. And a lot of people will also question the new Hinge and its longevity, and if the inner display will crack along the crease after a few months. That is something that I can't tell right now because currently it's still working still fine, so maybe I'll update again in a few months. I still think that even the world of foldable smartphones is starting to pop off these few years. Samsung software is still the best in my opinion, when you just make good use of this form factor. And let's not forget, Samsung still has IPX8 rating and also Flex mode that just is unique to their smartphone overall. Yeah, those are the differences that we can find. If you have any other questions or anything that you have found between these two phones, I mean in terms of its differences, then do leave them down in the comment section below. I will have to upgrade to the Fold 5 because that's my job anyway. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video. Also, do let us know if you are upgrading from the Fold 4 to the Fold 5 and let me know why. I'm curious.